Breaking news for every driver watching this video right now. If you're planning to get behind the wheel in January 2026, you need to know about 7 major driving law changes rolling out across the United States. And I'm not exaggerating when I say these could cost you thousands of dollars, maybe even tens of thousands if you're not prepared. Some of these changes are already in effect in certain states, quietly enforced while most drivers have no idea they exist. By January, they're going nationwide or expanding rapidly into new territories. Whether you're a daily commuter fighting rush hour traffic, a weekend road tripper who loves exploring new places, or someone who just drives to the grocery store twice a week, these new rules will affect you directly. There's no escaping them. There's no grandfathering in. These laws apply to everyone with a driver's license. Stay with me because what I'm about to share could save you from expensive tickets that drain your bank account, insurance hikes that follow you for years, and even serious legal trouble that can change your life overnight. This isn't fear-mongering. This is real information, practical, specific, and timely that could literally save you thousands of dollars and protect your driving record. Welcome back to the channel, and if you're new here, this is where we break down the laws, regulations, and policy changes that actually impact your daily life and your wallet. No clickbait, no fluff, no filler, just clear, actionable information you can use before it's too late. Today, we're talking about 7 driving law changes coming in January 2026 that every American driver needs to know about. And one of these is catching more people off guard than anything else we've seen in years. Here's why this matters more than ever. Driving laws don't change all at once with sirens and headlines. They change quietly, state by state, city by city, until suddenly you're breaking a rule you didn't even know existed. And in 2026, the penalties tied to these changes are no longer small inconveniences. They're designed to hurt. We're talking fines that stack, insurance increases that linger for 3 to 5 years, license points that follow you everywhere, and enforcement systems that don't care about excuses or context. A single mistake at a red light, a momentary glance at your phone, one drink you thought was harmless. These aren't minor anymore. They're expensive and they're permanent in ways most people don't think about until the bill arrives. And the worst part, you don't have to be reckless or irresponsible to get caught. Many of these new rules punish perfectly normal habits that used to be tolerated or at least lightly enforced. That's why staying informed now is the difference between adapting calmly and learning the hard way with a ticket in your mailbox or a notice from your insurance company. As we go through these 7 changes, I'm not just going to tell you what's happening. I'll explain how people are getting caught, why the costs add up so fast, and what you can do right now to protect yourself. Because knowledge isn't just power anymore. In 2026, knowledge is protection. The first change is the one that's going to catch more drivers off guard than anything else on this list because most people think they already understand it. Hands-free cell phone laws are expanding dramatically in January 2026, and the penalties tied to them are getting much harsher across the board. Now, you might be thinking, wait, haven't hands-free laws been around for years? And you're right. Some states have had them for a long time. But here's what's different now, and this is where people are getting burned. As of January 2026, more than a dozen additional states are either rolling out brand new, distracted driving laws or aggressively strengthening existing ones. And at the same time, states that already had these laws are increasing fines, adding license points, and tightening enforcement in a coordinated way. What used to be a minor annoyance is becoming a serious financial penalty. In many states, first-time offenses that used to cost $50 or maybe $100 are now jumping to $200, $300, even $500. And that's just for the first ticket. Second offenses can climb to $1,000 or more, plus points on your license that stay there for years and quietly drive up your insurance rates. In some states, repeat offenders are now facing mandatory driver education courses that you pay for yourself, community service requirements, and even temporary license suspensions. Imagine losing your ability to drive for 30, 60, or 90 days. Not because you were drunk, not because you caused an accident, but because you got caught holding your phone more than once. For most people, that's not just inconvenient. That's life-disrupting. No driving means trouble getting to work, taking kids to school, running basic errands, or keeping up with daily responsibilities. And here's the part that hurts long after you've paid the fine. Insurance companies are watching these violations very closely. A distracted driving citation can raise your premiums by 15 to 30% or more depending on your provider and your driving history. That can easily mean an extra $500 to $1,000 per year, and those increases usually stick around for 3 to 5 years. Now listen carefully because this is where many drivers are genuinely shocked. Under these expanded laws, it's not just texting while driving that's illegal. Holding your phone in your hand at any point while driving is now a violation in most of these states. Even if you're not actively using it, even if you're stopped at a red light, even if you're just glancing at the screen for a second, if you're in the driver's seat, the engine is on, and the phone is in your hand, you can be ticketed, checking a notification, scrolling social media and traffic, manually adjusting GPS directions, or holding the phone to your ear for a quick call. All illegal. The only real exception is true hands-free use, meaning your phone is mounted securely and you're using voice commands or your vehicle's built-in system. Not in your lap, not in the cup holder, not wedged between your shoulder and your ear. Picture this scenario because it's happening every day. You're sitting at a red light during your morning commute. Traffic is stopped, your phone buzzes. You glance down, pick it up for maybe 3 seconds just to see who texted you. You don't respond, you don't type. A police officer nearby sees it. That's a ticket. It doesn't matter that the car wasn't moving. It doesn't matter that it was brief. Under the law, you were distracted. No warning, no exception. The way to protect yourself is simple, but you have to be disciplined. Get a proper phone mount and use it every time. Use voice commands for navigation, calls, and messages. And if something truly can't wait, pull over safely, put the car in park, handle it, and then get back on the road. It might feel inconvenient, but it's nothing compared to the fines, insurance hikes, and stress these new rules can bring. The second major change builds on that pressure because now enforcement isn't just coming from police officers. It's coming from cameras everywhere. Automated enforcement is exploding in 2026. Speed cameras and red light cameras are being installed in hundreds, even thousands of new locations across the country, and the rules around them are getting much stricter. Whether you like them or hate them doesn't really matter at this point. They're here, they're expanding, and they don't give warnings. Cities and states across the country are rolling out new camera networks, especially in busy urban areas, school zones, and HITRA corridors. And what's really changed is the tolerance level. In the past, many speed cameras didn't trigger unless you were going 10 or 11 miles an hour over the limit. That buffer is disappearing. In some places, cameras now activate at 5 or 6 mph over. That means going with the flow of traffic is no longer a safe assumption. Red light cameras are also tightening up. Grace periods that once allowed a fraction of a second after the light turned red are shrinking or being eliminated entirely. If even the front bumper crosses the stop line after the light changes, the system can flag it. And these systems don't care why it happened. They don't care if the car behind you was tailgating. They don't care if the light turned yellow when you were too close to stop comfortably. A camera sees a violation and a ticket shows up in your mailbox weeks later, often long after you've forgotten the moment entirely. These aren't small fines either. Red light camera tickets can range from $75 to $500 or more depending on where you live. Speed camera tickets start lower, but they escalate quickly, especially if you're caught multiple times in a short period. Here's the tricky part that confuses a lot of drivers. Many of these tickets are considered civil violations, not moving violations. So they may not add points to your license. That sounds like good news, but it doesn't mean they're harmless. Insurance companies can still factor them into your risk profile, and unpaid tickets can spiral fast. Ignore one and you could face late fees that double the fine, collections notices, damage to your credit score, or even a suspended vehicle registration. That means you legally can't drive your car until everything is paid and cleared. The smart move in this new environment is boring but effective. Slow down. Treat yellow lights as a signal to stop, not a challenge to beat. Pay attention in high enforcement areas and use navigation apps that alert you when you're approaching camera zones so you're more cautious, not reckless. With cameras watching constantly and tolerances shrinking, trying to shave a few minutes off your drive just isn't worth the cost anymore. And as you're about to hear next, the financial consequences only get worse from here. The third change is one of the most serious on this entire list, because it doesn't just affect your wallet for a few months. It can alter the course of your life for years. Several states are lowering their legal blood alcohol concentration limits and dramatically increasing penalties for impaired driving, starting in January 2026. For decades, the standard legal limit across most of the country has been 0.08%. That number became so familiar that many drivers built their habits around it. One or two drinks with dinner felt safe. A glass of wine at a friend's house didn't seem like a big deal, but that mental framework is breaking down fast. A growing number of states are moving to a 0.05% BAC limit. And this is not a small technical change. It's a fundamental shift in how drinking and driving is treated. At 0.05, many people can be over the limit after just one or two drinks, depending on body weight, metabolism, how quickly the alcohol was consumed, and whether food was involved. The margin for error is almost gone. What used to feel like cautious, responsible behavior can now put you over the legal limit without you realizing it. And the penalties attached to these new limits are far harsher than many drivers expect. First-time DUI offenses can now come with fines starting around $1,000 and climbing quickly, mandatory alcohol education programs that cost hundreds more, license suspensions lasting months, and in some cases even jail time. And that's just the beginning. Second and third offenses are being treated much more aggressively, often as felony charges, with massive fines, long-term license revocation, mandatory ignition interlock devices, and the real possibility of extended jail time. But the true damage of a DUI doesn't come from the court fine alone. It comes from everything that follows. Court costs, administrative fees, attorney expenses that can run into the thousands, and insurance premiums that can double or triple overnight. Those higher insurance rates don't disappear after a few months. They can follow you for 3 to 5 years. Add in the cost of installing and maintaining an ignition interlock device, missed work, lost income, and in some cases, even job loss. And a single DUI can easily cost $15,000 to $25,000 or more. Now imagine this scenario. You go out to dinner with friends on a Friday night. You have 2 glasses of wine over a couple of hours, you eat a full meal, you feel completely fine. You're alert, focused, and confident you can drive the short distance home. On the way, you get pulled over for something minor, a rolling stop, a taillight issue. The officer smells alcohol, asks a few questions, and asks you to take a breath test. You blow a 0.06. In a 0.08 state, that might not have ended your night. In a 0.05 state, your life just changed. You're arrested for DUI. Your license is at risk. Your insurance is about to skyrocket. And thousands of dollars in costs are about to pile up. All because of 2 drinks you genuinely believed were safe. The reality in 2026 is simple and unforgiving. If you drink at all, don't drive. Not a little, not carefully, not just around the corner. Use a rideshare, call someone you trust, take public transportation, or stay where you are. Even if it's inconvenient, even if it costs you a few extra dollars, that cost is nothing compared to the financial, legal, and emotional fallout of a DUI under these new laws. The fourth change is quieter, but for many drivers, it's going to show up in a very real way when renewal notices arrive in the mail. Starting in January 2026, several states are implementing new or increased fees related to electric vehicles and tightening emission standards for gas-powered cars. If you drive an electric vehicle, you may have noticed that you don't pay gas taxes at the pump, which traditionally fund road maintenance and transportation infrastructure. As more drivers switch to EVs, states are losing that revenue, and they're now closing the gap. In many states, EV owners will be required to pay an additional annual registration fee, often ranging from $100 to $200 or more, specifically because they don't contribute to gas taxes. This fee is added on top of standard registration costs, and for some owners, it comes as a surprise. Some states are also rolling out or expanding mileage-based fees where drivers pay based on how many miles they drive each year regardless of what powers the vehicle. The goal is fairness, but the result is higher ownership costs that many people didn't budget for when they bought their car. On the other side of the equation, gas-powered vehicles, especially older ones, are facing stricter emissions testing. States with historically tough standards are tightening them even further, and more states are joining in. If your vehicle fails under the new thresholds, you may be required to make repairs before you can renew your registration. That could mean several hundred in unexpected expenses just to stay legal. In some cities, older vehicles that don't meet emission standards may face additional restrictions or congestion fees simply to enter certain areas. Picture this. You drive an older sedan that's been reliable for years, no major issues, but when you go to renew your registration in 2026, the car fails its emissions test by a small margin. Now you're looking at repair bills you didn't plan for, and until those repairs are made, your registration can't be renewed. That means you technically can't drive the car. The best way to prepare is to plan ahead. If you own an EV, factor higher registration fees into your budget. Now, if you drive a gas-powered vehicle, especially an older one, consider getting emissions testing done early so there are no surprises. And if you're thinking about buying a new vehicle in the next year or two, take the time to understand the full cost picture in your state. Incentives, fees, and restrictions can change the math dramatically, and knowing that ahead of time can save you a lot of stress and money. The fifth change is one that many people assume will never affect them, but in reality, it has the potential to hit everyday drivers much harder than expected. Starting in January 2026, penalties for street racing and reckless driving are getting significantly more severe, and the definition of what counts as reckless is expanding in ways that catch people off guard. In response to a rise in dangerous driving behavior and high-profile accidents, several states are rolling out aggressive enforcement and punishment strategies. We're not just talking about bigger fines. We're talking about immediate vehicle impoundment, license suspension, and even felony charges for repeat offenses. In some states, if you're caught participating in street racing, or what authorities classify as reckless driving, your vehicle can be towed on the spot and held for weeks. You don't get to drive it home. You don't get a warning. You pay towing fees, storage fees, and impound costs on top of the criminal penalties. First-time fines can start in the thousands, and second offenses can quickly escalate into felony territory with serious jail time. But here's where this becomes relevant to drivers who would never dream of racing on public roads. The legal definition of reckless driving is much broader than most people realize. Excessive speeding, aggressive lane changes, tailgating, weaving through traffic, rapid acceleration, sudden braking, and driving in a way that appears angry or impatient can all qualify. If you're late for work, stuck in traffic, or frustrated because someone cut you off, and you let that frustration dictate your driving, you could find yourself facing a reckless driving charge instead of a simple ticket. Imagine weaving through traffic at highway speed, changing lanes without signaling, riding close to bumpers, and pushing well above the speed limit because you're running late. A police officer observes that behavior and pulls you over. Instead of a standard speeding ticket, you're charged with reckless driving. That's not just a fine. It can mean a court appearance, heavy penalties, points on your license, possible suspension, and insurance increases that can cost you thousands over the next few years. And in some states, even spectators at street racing events are now being targeted, fined, or arrested under the logic that an audience fuels dangerous behavior. The message from lawmakers and law enforcement is clear. Aggressive driving is no longer being treated as a minor lapse in judgment. It's being treated as a serious public safety issue with life-changing consequences. The safest approach in this new environment is to drive calmly and deliberately at all times. Don't let emotion control your behavior behind the wheel. Don't speed excessively. Don't drive aggressively, and stay far away from any activity that could be associated with street racing, even as a bystander. The penalties are simply too severe to gamble with. The sixth change is quieter, but for many drivers, especially older ones, it can be deeply unsettling. Starting in January 2026, driver's license renewal requirements are becoming stricter in several states, and renewing your license may no longer be the quick, routine process it once was. In an effort to improve road safety, states are expanding requirements for vision tests, written knowledge exams, and in some cases, even behind-the-wheel road tests for drivers above certain age thresholds, often 70 or 75. The reasoning is understandable. As people age, vision can decline, reaction times can slow, and certain medical conditions become more common. But for drivers who have spent decades on the road without serious incidents, being told they need additional testing can feel frustrating and even insulting. On top of that, medical disclosure requirements are tightening. Drivers with conditions such as diabetes, epilepsy, sleep apnea, heart issues, or other health concerns may now be required to provide documentation from a physician confirming that their condition is managed and does not impair their ability to drive safely. What this means in practical terms is that renewing your license may now involve scheduling appointments weeks in advance, gathering medical paperwork, and taking tests you haven't taken in decades. If you fail a required test, you could be ordered to complete a driver improvement course, face restrictions on when or where you can drive, or in some cases, lose your driving privileges altogether. The key to avoiding problems here is preparation. Don't wait until your license is about to expire. Check your state's renewal requirements early. Schedule any required tests or appointments well in advance. And if you know you have a medical condition that may require documentation, start gathering that paperwork now. Being proactive can make the difference between a smooth renewal and a stressful, expensive disruption to your daily life. The seventh change might seem small compared to everything else we've covered, but for many drivers, it's the one that quietly adds up the fastest. Starting in January 2026, parking fines and minor moving violation fines are increasing across the board in cities and states nationwide. Many local governments haven't adjusted their fine structures in years, sometimes decades, and now they're doing it all at once. What used to be a $25 a parking ticket is becoming $50 or $75. A basic speeding ticket that once cost $100 can now run $150 to $20, or even more depending on how fast you were going and where it happened. The logic behind these increases is simple: inflation, higher enforcement costs, and the belief that low fines don't actually discourage bad behavior. Big cities are leading the way, but smaller cities and suburban areas are following quickly. And the real problem isn't just the higher dollar amount, it's how fast these penalties stack. An expired meter, parking in a restricted zone because you were only gone for 2 minutes, rolling through a stop sign in a quiet neighborhood. These are the kinds of things people used to brush off. In 2026, those same mistakes can hit your wallet much harder. And with increased digital enforcement, license plate tracking, and automated systems, unpaid tickets don't just disappear, they accumulate. Miss a payment or ignore a notice, and you could be looking at late fees that double the original fine. Parking boots, towing, or even a suspended vehicle registration. At that point, it's no longer a minor inconvenience. It's a serious disruption. The takeaway here is straightforward. Pay close attention to parking signs and time limits. Don't assume enforcement is lax just because it used to be. And take every ticket seriously, even if it feels unfair or minor. In this new environment, small violations can turn into big financial headaches faster than ever before. So, now that you understand what's coming, let's talk about what you should do right now to protect yourself, your wallet, and your driving record. First, stay informed at the state and local level. Everything we've discussed today is part of a national trend, but the exact details, timelines, penalties, and enforcement priorities vary by state and city. Make it a habit to check your state's DMV website and local government announcements so you're not caught by surprise. Second, start adjusting your driving habits immediately. Don't wait until January or until you get a ticket. Keep your phone completely out of your hands while driving. Mount it, use voice commands, or ignore it altogether. Slow down, especially in areas with heavy camera enforcement. Treat yellow lights as a warning to stop, not a signal to speed up. And if you drink even a little, don't drive at all. The risk is no longer worth it. Third, budget for new costs. Now, if you own an electric vehicle, plan for higher registration fees. If you drive an older gas-powered car, set aside money just in case emissions testing leads to repairs. Fourth, invest in small tools that make a big difference. A good phone mount, a reliable Bluetooth system, and navigation apps that alert you to high enforcement zones can save you hundreds or even thousands of dollars over time. And finally, take these changes seriously. even if you don't like them or agree with them. The laws are being enforced, the penalties are real, and the consequences can follow you for years. Being informed and proactive is the only real defense. If this video helped you understand what's coming in January 2026 and how to avoid expensive mistakes, take a moment to like it, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe so you don't miss future updates. Laws and regulations change constantly, and most people don't find out until it's already cost them money. By staying informed, you're giving yourself an advantage. And if you have thoughts or concerns about any of these changes, drop a comment below. I read them all, and your questions often shape what we cover.